All right. I'm sorry. We're having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues here. It's just how life works sometimes when you're basing on technology. But Roxanne and Jason Wilson, their daughter Chloe, unfortunately took her life a couple of weeks ago. And it's kind of thrown them into a whole new world of understanding and not understanding and trying to do something about some things. And so we thought we'd have them on today because we're going to talk about today. Actually, it's this evening, right? Mm-hmm. There's a youth-saving youth meeting at 4. So we're going to talk about what that is. Yeah, Bill, round 2. That's right. Sometimes the Wi-Fi just doesn't want to catch up, and we're going to do that. So first, before we start with youth-saving youth, I think it's kind of important for people to find out. So how are you guys doing? And I don't mean that. People are saying, hi, you guys, how you doing?
It's been rough. I mean, it's been particularly rough, the way that we found Chloe. And that's, we've both been in therapy for, to help us deal with that. But it's kind of weird. There's some PTSD. There's some, like visions, remembrance, takes you back to that moment. You feel like every day you wake up, it's the very next day. It just happened yesterday. And it's been nothing that you could ever expect. And,
right.
And you just don't know how to deal with it. You just put one foot in front of the other and try to get out of bed every day. It's
kind of, you guys know what you're doing in terms of, because you've both been through recovery. So you know that you're volatile. I mean, where the rest, I think what the advantage that you have, if there is an advantage, is you've been here in these rough places. And so for some of us, this would, we wouldn't know what to do. So I think it's pretty cool because I talked to Jason shortly after this. And you said, hey, Rick, I'm going to therapy because I keep seeing the picture of getting her down. And I thought, God, that's ballsy. I mean, to jump into therapy just like that, because most people, they're trying to cope with it and deal with it. You realize, okay, I got to
I knew right away.
Yeah.
I was like, that night, I knew I needed to go see my therapist. And luckily, I have a really great therapist that I trust and feel comfortable with. And so I was able to jump right in there. And he answered the call. And he actually took me on his lunch, because he realized that I needed to see him right away. So it was really cool. It worked out really well.
So what have you... learned? What have you learned that...
Nothing is what you think it is.
Really?
Yeah, nothing in this world is actually what you think it is. Because we joined like a page for, people who have lost their children to suicide, and you read all these things and everybody talks about, they were so depressed and they were so this and there was this and there was that and I saw this and I saw that. And that was the thing with Chloe is there was, she was depressed and had anxiety, but like she didn't sit in her room and draw pictures of, depressive things. She didn't, listen to depressive music, like
she jumped around on the bed and laughed and
listen to G-Eazy and we listened to reggae and her and I would drive in the car and spit out Eminem rap lyrics together, and
so you don't always. It's easier for. Don't you think that? Have you learned? I think that one of the things that I've seen just from watching people is we as people who. Okay, so you're now. It's kind of like when I had cancer. Yeah. I'm now in this club that I didn't want to be in, but I'm in, and it's like your eyes are open. You're no longer taking the Matrix pill, and you see life for what it really looks like sometimes.
Yeah, so we had no idea that it was this prevalent.
And so people like me on this other side, we want to find reasons like, was Chloe, maybe she wasn't happy. Maybe this was going on, so that we can find a reason that it happened so that we think that it won't happen to us. You know what I mean?
She experienced what I guess they are calling adverse childhood experiences with her birth mother. And that's why I'm really sensitive about the whole step label, because I've been her only mother for a long time.
Because believe it or not, folks, there's been people coming on their site and talking about, well, you're her stepmother, why are you so upset? Which I just can't even believe that somebody would do that. But the other reason that's sensitive for them is because you have some stuff in your past with step family. So kind of explain without getting into too much.
Well, you know, like I was raised by my father, you know, my entire life since I was 3 years old, and then, you know, when, you know, I got to be a teenager and I was kind of rebellious and stuff, he kind of pulled back, and then it was at the point where, you know, I became his stepson, you know, and not his son.
He was your real dad.
No, he was my stepdad.
Your stepdad.
He didn't know that until later.
I didn't know that till I was 18 and registered for selective service. Yeah, they never told me anything, and then at some point in my early 20s, he started referring to me as his stepson, and so that whole step parent thing. Plus, you know, I've been a step parent for 19 years to 2 kids, and I call them my kids, and they call me dad, and I just don't like that. I think that label has a stigma of not being as much.
You know what's interesting about that too, both you guys, is to me is like, this is kind of things that I'm learning in my life, is you don't know people's backstory.
Yeah.
And so when you write something like that on there, you may think that it's perfectly logical, but then all of a sudden you're triggering something in your life that's a trigger. And God, we have to be so careful of that. Not oversensitive and politically correct. This is just being kind. I mean, you know what I mean?
And it's not even people being oversensitive. I mean, yeah, I have a trigger over it, but, you know, if you say something like that and I say, hey, you know, don't say that because of this or this or this, and you're like, well, you're just an oversensitive snowflake, you know, it's like, okay, well, here's my address, come over and see how much of a snowflake I can be, you know, like, really, because, like, that's about the end of my fuse at that point, you know, and so...
Well, it is insensitive of people to do that.
I mean, but I understand everybody says this, but, I mean, once somebody says, you know, hey, don't say that, that's not cool, you know, I mean, it goes back to the same thing of what we're working on,
yeah,
you know, it's like...
If I say that hurts me, it hurts me because I worked so hard to develop this strong relationship with her to help her heal from the things that somebody else did in her past.
Right.
You know, and that was me taking her to these appointments and me doing exercises.
I don't even think you should have to explain.
Yeah.
I just think it's
no, I know,
nobody
but
even.
I want people to understand that that's part of what we're trying to change. Is that when I'm saying, please don't say that. That's hurtful to me. It hurts me. It hurts me to use that word because I don't feel like I'm her, that she's my stepdaughter. She's my daughter. I love her.
And they don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
So tell me about what I think is really interesting is you had a meeting recently with the mayor and school officials and some city officials, and they all came together. And what was that meeting about?
Go ahead.
It was about basically information sharing and collaboration to try to identify the gaps in the system, basically, that are keeping our youth from accessing the help that they need in order to reduce mental illness and reduce the suicide rates that have risen to an alarming rate. They issued a health advisory, and it was
the county did.
The county did. The public health, Lane County Public Health, and our county is 42% above the average in suicide, which is more than 1 suicide per week.
So there's a gap, and you're trying to, as a parent now, you have a big. I mean, unfortunately, you got a bigger voice.
Well, and we have personally experienced some of those gaps.
Right.
And
so this is a way to get with city leaders and say, let's find a way, and county leaders and say, let's find a way.
Everybody's got their scope. This is my scope. This is my scope. This is my scope. And there's all these in-betweens that these kids are falling through, and they're not getting what they need.
And so they're starting this group called, my stepdaughter and daughter, okay. Anyway, they're starting a group called Youth Saving Youth. And they're meeting today at 4 o'clock right across the street from me at, what's the?
Eugene Mineworks.
At Eugene Mineworks, upstairs. So anybody can come to that meeting, and this is just to talk about empowering.
It's actually an orientation for some of the youth that are wanting to take the peer support, get peer support information to take back to their lives at school and in social media, to give them the tools they need to stand up for themselves and to make a change in their own culture for their own survival, to one of love and support for each other.
Because the problem, one of the gaps that we've seen for a long time that you really recognize in this is that kids, schools, say they have a zero tolerance for it, but kids, I've seen a lot of parents on here saying they've gone to the schools and not a whole lot's been done. No. But the other thing is kids are afraid. I talked to one little boy who's 11 years old. He's afraid to go. He got beat up because he did go say something to somebody.
Yeah.
So there's a gap there where
Right.
they're not. So what you're saying is the kids should rise up for each other to start
Exactly.
supporting each other. Going, no, we're not gonna accept this kind of behavior. Then.
Right. Because if it's not socially acceptable from their own peers, that's not tattletelling. That's their own peers saying, hey, that's not cool.
How do you go ahead?
Oh, and there's one thing we heard specifically from the schools, and I'd like to actually ask this question to people out there who are parents that have children in school, is that the schools are afraid that if we bring this up, if we bring this to light, that it's going to create this culture of kids who just do this, like it's going to exacerbate the problem. So instead of educating them on how to deal with bullying and how to recognize the signs of suicide and how to deal with your own thoughts of that, it's kind of just swept under the rug.
That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is, exactly.
Because they're thinking that is would be better for the kids to not deal with it than it's not really working that way.
So they're thinking that if we talk about it, more people are going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is more people are doing it.
Yeah, without
Anyway.
talking about it.
So, I mean, whatever we're doing now is not working.
There's a lot of really great resources in this community
There
for
a
teens, that are struggling and stuff like that. The problem is that they can't get it from the information from the one place where they spend most of their time.
Which is
School.
So, yeah, school and social media.
Mm-hmm.
And the two main things that are, I mean, the main
But they're afraid that this is going to cause an uproar with the parents. And yeah, you might get.
What do you mean an uproar with the parents?
Well, kind of. Like they're gonna complain that, like, oh, you're teaching our kids suicide prevention and stuff like that. You're just going to make them, you're going to fill their head with these ideas and
but
things
unfortunately,
like that.
it's already in there.
Yeah, the ideas are there.
There's this main thing that on social media when they're like thinking that something's really funny, they say, "Oh my God, death."
Yeah.
I mean,
really?
this is the culture that these kids are growing up in. I mean, that's what they think is funny. Oh my God, death. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying.
So part of the part of this is, I mean, there's a great line out of one of my favorite books that says, "Life and death is in the power of the tongue." I mean, what you speak, you can speak into existence. We all know that as adults. But so changing that, so you go, okay, because you really need to come up with a different word, because that's not working, and you're throwing out things that people, and to make people aware that those words hurt.
Yes.
And one of the kids on here said, well, one of the kids on here told me that they were telling kids were writing them stuff saying, you should die,
Yeah,
and
that happens. That's what they told her too.
Right, and so that is, I mean, okay, I don't know, I'm older than you a little bit, but for my generation, you don't say that to people.
No.
I mean, but now there's this whole generation that's acceptable. So what you're doing with Youth Saving Youth is empowering youth to change their vocabulary and say, do you know what that does to people? Because you are speaking that into people's lives. And if someone has, you guys had said she had dealt with some depression and some mental illness that way. So if anybody has a little bit of mental illness and you don't know it, and then you throw that line out there, you're feeding that, and you may not know it. And unless in respect for the kids who are teasing, which they shouldn't be teasing, but you don't even know what you're doing. You might think it's fun and it's interesting, but you really are. It's like what they said to you. You shouldn't be, you're a stepfather or something. Well, that triggers something in your past. And we have to understand that's what happens on here.
And to be honest, sometimes adverse childhood experiences are caused by teasing in school.
Oh God,
I've been reading some of that.
I mean, I could tell you so many. Well, I'm not going to tell you, but I mean, but my life. I can look back at my life, and I think a lot of us can. I've talked to dozens of people that there is. You can see where what the things that still come against you are the words that kids used to snap at you.
One thing that in particular has bothered me over the last week, and this is why I've taken a serious break from social media, is because I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall. And this is something that I've seen all over the place, and this goes along with the walkout from the Florida shooting and what's happened around here. And parents think their kids are dumb. Yeah. They really think that they are dumb, and that they don't understand what's going on in the world, and that they have no clue, because they're not 18 and they don't vote, they shouldn't have a voice, and they have no clue of what's going on in this world. And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, because they're 6 months away from voting age, they have no opinion and they have no ability to strive to make change? Yeah, maybe they don't understand the Constitution word for word, but show me an adult that does. Show me an adult that knows the Second Amendment word for word. The ones that are complaining that, oh, the kids don't know the Second Amendment. And so it's these adults that are taking the voices away from the next generation when they actually, yeah, they are more sensitive than us. Yeah, you do need to speak a little bit nicer to them, but hopefully that sensitivity is going to breed a world that is more sensitive and more caring than the one that we live in today.
Exactly.
So in terms of bullying, how do you see that? I don't mean specific cases, but in terms of their voice being taken away.
Bullying, I think we both agree, is really just as much a cry for help as the people being bullied.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, bullying most of the time is because the youth feel powerless in some situation in their life, and we're not saying it's the parents or whatever. We're just saying that there's some situation in their life where they feel powerless, and that bullying is a way for them to feel like they have power.
Well, you saw the thing with Elrod, the Elrod Center. She was saying it's a brain function where you kind of get in a depressive state just getting into teen years, and the cortisol kicks in when something happens like it's supposed to be like, wow, Roxanne is making change. Phew, that feels good, those kind of things. But what often happens is they don't get it any other way, so a child bullies and goes, oh, that felt good. I have power over somebody. So it becomes a pattern that way.
Yeah.
So it's really breaking.
I love that Elrod Center.
I know. I mean, that was the greatest thing. So breaking that pattern is super important.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are not like attacking the children who are exhibiting the bullying behavior. We're attacking the behavior.
Yeah.
We're trying to change the behavior by helping empowering the youth to make positive change so they can feel powerful in a positive way.
So can I ask kind of a sort of sensitive question? Sure. So what do you think Chloe would think of what you're doing?
I think she would think it's awesome. She really believed in the peer support. She wanted to do it herself, and she wanted to make a change in this world. Her own way. Hers probably would have been different than this, but I mean, this is what we can do to help her make a change in the world that she wanted to make. And she went to our neighborhood association meetings with us.
No, I know, because what's so funny or interesting is a friend of mine is in that association with you, and I met with her and we were talking, and she said, yeah, well, I didn't even know, and Roxanne and Chloe didn't show up to the meeting, and they said there's been an incident in their family, and the meeting was like that night or something, night after.
It was, really soon after that, yeah.
And she said, and then I found out, I watched your show, and I was going, oh my gosh, it's Chloe, because here's a kid who's how old, 14?
She's 14, and she wanted to lead a youth group to empower the youth to make changes in our neighborhood association.
Yeah, I actually have it written down in my notebook where she wrote it to me during the meeting and said, hey, what about this? And so
is this kind of giving you guys, is this, I mean, it's more than this, but is this a place where you're being able to do positive things with your grief?
Oh, absolutely. More so her than me. I mean, I don't want anybody to mistake. This is like 99.9% Roxanne.
Well, he talks to me about what he wants, but he doesn't really like to be the voice a lot of times.
Yeah, and she's really good at implementation. So I'm kind of a procrastinator.
That's why you married her.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, one of many reasons,
But Chloe, she 4 days before she passed, she was with me in Salem advocating for mental health. She also wanted to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ron, so I don't know where you're getting that, but if that's from somebody else talking, if you're responding to somebody else, that's great, because we're not even talking about that, so I don't know where you're coming in with that, but just don't look at it, because he's talking about we want the school administration to do what, I don't know.
Well, we are trying to get the school administration eventually and to allow us to have these peer support trainings on campus at the schools. And that's what has happened in Ohio that has really made a huge difference. It's called a program called Grant Us Hope, and it has dramatically decreased mental illness and suicide rates because of directly correlated to the peer support program inside the schools.
Well, and this isn't just about stopping kids from taking their own lives. It's about improving everybody's quality of life.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what the main focus is.
Nobody should have to go through there. And I know people, I get so tired of people going, well, there was bullying when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so that was right.
Yeah. No, it wasn't right.
But it's gotten worse because there's more avenues to go get it.
It's a whole different scope now.
I mean, look how people on here. I wrote something yesterday about a movie that I went and saw. And did you? Yeah, I'm sure you saw that, did you? And it was like, it was my opinion of a movie, and you'd think that I had said that Jesus wasn't the Christ, or whatever. Yeah. And it was like people just came unglued, and it's like, people, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It's a culture of sensationalism.
And how do we expect our kids to be different when we're like that?
Exactly.
I mean, they're learning it from us, and we're on there doing this, and beating people up for things that they think or say. And I'm going, I know exactly what it feels like to be bullied. I don't care because I antagonize people, and that's fine. But I'm asking for it. Chloe and other kids are not.
I'll tell you, in our culture right now, in our country, it starts from the very top down.
Right.
And it's evident and it's seen all across the world that this is what America is.
Right. You look at, I saw somebody, and you can't pick a party, and you can't, because it's in both parties.
Yeah.
This has been going on. I ran for office in 2008, 10 years ago. Nastiest thing that ever happened to me. But I'll tell you what, that was little things. I went to it. I'll give you a great example. I was at a thing, and years ago I was back in Eastern Oregon, and I asked this gentleman, who do you know who the governor of Oregon is? He lived in Rome, or not Rome, but near there. A mile from Idaho. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me, and this is what I said in this press conference. He said in this tone, I don't even know who the governor of Oregon is. Well, and I was saying it like he said. They didn't listen to what I was saying. They took me making fun of people that live in rural Oregon. That became the issue. Oh. So then all the media started attacking me because I was making fun of when in my world, when you tell a story, you tell it as it happened. Mm-hmm. But nobody bothered to say anything about that. So they just railed me on that. And I was like, and there's nothing you can do about that. No. Mm-hmm. But that's politics. That's what they've been doing. So now we wonder why our kids are doing it and why the culture is doing it. And it's not just the politicians. They're a reflection of us. I always think that's funny when we as people want the politicians to balance the federal budget when most of us live in debt and don't balance our own budget. You know what I mean? It's like, so we want them to be different than us, but they represent us. It's just crazy. So with Youth Helping Saving Youth, they meet today at 4 o'clock.
Yes, I wanted to share something real quick.
You go ahead.
A lot of the reason we want to help the youth change their culture to one that's positive and decrease mental illness is because on a percentage-wise, according to research, the percent of mental illness does not decrease at all between the ages of 26 and 50. So if we're going to actually make a difference in decreasing mental illness in our country, we really, really need to help these kids decrease mental illness. Right. Because once they get to be an adult, it's nearly impossible to actually heal from those things. At that point, then we just kind of have to put out the fires and learn how to cope.
Right.
So if we really actually want to affect real, deep healing and on a lasting level, it has to be done during the childhood.
Right.
And in order to do that, we have to help empower them, give them the tools they need to heal and to feel like they're not powerless and to feel like they have a chance to make a difference in life and they have a purpose.
And remove that stigma.
And remove the stigma.
Right. We have to start talking about mental illness. I mean, don't send your disabled kid to public. Ron? Well, oh my God! Did you really say that?
All right. Well, when I
Ron, you know what? Just don't. You know what? That is so inappropriate. I cannot believe you just said that. Are you serious? Oh my God. Ron?
What was he saying?
No, we're not. No, it's nothing about you guys. I mean, oh my God. You know, you just need to go off this page. I am so disgusted with that. I am so disgusted with that.
That's the problem right
there is the bully attitude right there, Ron. Thanks. That is so not right. Yeah, go take that. And, you know, Ron, what would Jesus do, Ron? Would he say that? Would he say that? No, he would not say that. That is so disgusting. I cannot believe, God, that is just bullshit, Ron. That is total bullshit. And you do not you're done on that. I hope you feel horrible, because you should. That's terrible. And I'm not trying to bully you, but when you say that to people, I mean, do you have no compassion? I mean, their daughter took her life, and then you get on there and say something like that. Wow. On a positive spin, these very brave people came on here to talk about youth saving youth. And they're starting a program. They're doing something, and this is not a judgment, but these are just two parents who are doing their best to try to do something. And all the officials are going to go, well, you need to go through this and go to this. All they're saying is we want to start now and get kids to feel like they're good, like they can do things, like they can make the change. And I think that's a super powerful thing. And I'm really honored to know you guys. I really like you. I think you guys are
like you too.
I know. I think you guys are awesome. I just think you guys are. It's just funny how God puts you in a weird place.
Yeah.
Bad things happen, and some good things can come from them.
Yeah. And we're happy to turn over the reins to the people who are trying to build these programs. That go through the state of Oregon and all of the governmental and agency. But all that stuff takes time.
And
when there's more than one person committing suicide every week, we just don't have that kind of time. So we just wanted to help them, give them the skills in the meantime. And then when they get the program in place and they want to take over, far be it to
right. You're not trying to get into the industry.
No.
You're just and you guys are working closely with. I know you're meeing with the Elrod Center and people from there, and so they're trying to get educated about that, like we all should. So anyway, so okay, I'm so distracted by that.
It's hard not to be.
I know it really is. What my daughter? Well, I love watching people talk in there. It's just interesting. There's no time. Kids need help now.
Yeah.
Somebody else's
They do.
best friend committed suicide. So I think the thing, I've had some people come on and say, who are experts in the field, don't talk about this and do this kind of stuff. I'm like you. When I was in the news business, we never reported on suicides. We never put the names, or anything like that.
But these kids have been inundated with information since they were born.
Well, and I
because
think
they've had the internet their whole lives.
So if we don't talk about mental illness, does it go away? If we don't talk about alcoholism, does it go away?
Let me give you an example of how fast this news travels now. Okay, the police that were at our house. This is before school even started that morning. Okay, the police that were at our house let the school resource officer in Bethel and 4J let all the resource officers know, because Chloe was so popular. She knew everybody. She knew a lot of people in every school. She had a brother that went to Churchill and a sister went to South, and then she just had friends everywhere. That probably happened around 7:30 in the morning. By 8 o'clock, I was getting messages from her friends in Florida asking if this was actually happening. So that's how fast this news travels.
Right.
So if you think that just because
we don't
it's
talk
not
about it,
or that it's not reported, that everybody doesn't already know, and your kids aren't going to come home and tell you about it. Most of them, I mean, some of them might, but most of them aren't. They're going to take it and they're going to shove it way down deep in that box,
right,
and keep that down in there.
And don't you think parents should have that conversation with their kids to say, how are you doing? And do you ever think about that? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had several conversations with Chloe. She had her own conversations with Chloe, and I had my own conversations with Chloe, and
we had some together.
We had some together, and we had some with all of our kids. We're kind of we're kind of an anomaly. We sat down and ate dinner every night together, and
Yeah.
How un-American.
I know, right? It's been really difficult to do. We've only done that a couple times since then.
And so, yeah, of course you need to talk to your kids, but, your kids are only going to, when you were a kid, how much did you listen to what your parents had to say?
And honestly, and two, I don't, I probably would not have talked to my parents about, because I could admit I used to think that would be an option when I was a kid, because I was miserable because people were teasing me and stuff. That's why this issue is so personal for me, and I get so irritated about it, because I think, but by the grace of God, I did not do that thing.
Yeah.
And I think that I honestly believe that the more we as people make that unacceptable, not, you know what I mean? Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think people take that like that's horrible. I mean that if you're making fun of people like that, I think okay, so I'll give you a great example. I was talking on here the other day, you probably watched this too, but somebody said something about bullying and what about each one of us, and I went, oh my God, I'm a bully when I drive. Because I hate when people pull in front of me and then go 20 miles an hour in a 40-mile place. So I used to ride them and get them to, get over and get me around this side. And so I'm sitting here having this conversation going, oh my God, I'm a bully in the car, And so, but on the good side, because of that, now I'm aware of it. I mean, I'm staying 3 car lengths back. I still pass them when I can, but I don't ride them like that. Because
I used to do the same.
And
because I'm thinking I don't want to be that guy.
Can I ask you a question?
As long as it's nice.
Yeah. When you changed that, over time, did it start to not bother you as much? I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure
okay, well, this has been
irritates you.
This has been
bad.
really recent, but but as I'm doing it, I'm noticing it.
Yeah.
And it's a conscious choice to say, stay back.
Yeah.
Stay back, back off. And then, but I'm
doesn't
doing
it like reduce the amount of stress that you have with the situation?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so it's like, I think that it's highly possible, but you have to, and how would I not be aware? I would not be aware of that if somebody on here wouldn't have said something.
Right. And so if the youth is saying, hey, maybe you don't realize what you're doing, but that is really hurtful.
Right.
And I'm sure you're not, for sure you're not doing that on purpose, but that's really
And they're not going to listen to us.
No,
they're not going to listen to us.
I mean, we still have to be there. It's not to abdicate our responsibility as parents.
We didn't know. Chloe's friends didn't know.
Right.
None of her friends knew.
Well, some of them on the Snapchat knew, but that she was struggling.
I think, and I think probably going to get a little bit of this here, and I've gotten a lot of it on other subjects regarding kids, is that,
hold on.
I'll come back over here.
Yeah, would you like to be in the shot when you talk, please?
We're breeding this culture of people that are too sensitive and stuff like that, but I don't really think it's a culture of people that are too sensitive. I think it's a culture of people enough to stand up and say, hey, this isn't the way to treat other people. This isn't the way to do things. That's bravery.
Right.
And that's why everybody thought the United States was brave at one point, because we would go in and say, hey, this isn't how you treat your people. You need to stop this, And that's exactly what the United States, used to do.
Right.
And that's what we need to do as a people. We need to show everybody that that's the way to treat people. That's what being brave is standing up and saying, that's not right. Let's do something about it.
Right.
That's not just laying down and crying in your soup.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we're not asking anybody to be a wimp. We're asking people actually to stand up and be strong.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes more effort for me not to do that.
Yeah.
It would do what's natural to me, and it's going to take a while for people to understand that. And I mean, because even when I was barking at Ron, I feel a little bit bad because I wasn't trying to bully him, but there's also, I don't think that's bullying when you're going, that is inappropriate, get it off my page, I don't want that.
Not.
And we're going to all have to learn what those lines are, but I think you have to, and I don't want people, I just see school popping up on here or something. We don't want to, we can't get into the game of blaming people. We have to really go in and
we're empowering people.
Right. It's, you know what, and I hate to say this because it sounds so stupid, but it's that Michael Jackson song. I'm starting with the guy in the mirror.
Yeah.
You start with yourself, and that's what I did. I didn't go thinking, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to stop bullying when I drive. I just went, I'm a bully, I better stop doing this. And I stopped doing it, and I'm doing better.
Yeah.
There's still times when I get a little antsy, but
Well, it's like, when I was an addict, I didn't, think about, okay, I'm going to go get high and cure some other people.
Right.
I got to start with me first. And then I can help other people, and that's what everybody needs to start. They need to start with themselves, change themselves, change their outlook on life, and change, the way that they perceive everything in this world and what's going on in their day-to-day lives, and make that change, and then it'll become infectious.
Right.
Yeah. The same with he's a peer support for substance abuse. I'm a peer support for mental health, and I have talked to a lot of. I'm there for these kids and tell them. I've met with some of the parents and said, hey, if it's okay with you, if your child doesn't feel like they can talk to you, they can call me, and I'll talk to them, and and I'll help them, and I'll even if at 3 o'clock in the morning, if it's really that serious, I'll drive to your house and say, hey, can I take your daughter and spend some time with her? It's kind of serious,
right?
And they're like, they're receptive because they know that not all the kids will talk to their parents, but they might talk to somebody else.
Right.
And so it's the village that has to do something, has to be there to support each other, and we can't do that if we're fighting each other.
Right.
If we're going to continue to fight each other and tear each other down as adults, how can we possibly be a village to raise our children up?
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys, today the meeting is across the street at the Mindworks, 4 o'clock. And you can go on Facebook and look up, it's called Youth Saving Youth. Mm-hmm. Put that in, it's under events, and you can find out more about it.
It's a Youth Saving Youth, it's under the groups.
Under the groups,
yeah.
So it's under groups. Thank you both for coming in.
Thanks for
having me. I appreciate your,
you.
We were texting yesterday and getting this all set up for today. So you guys, I'm going to be over on That Oregon Life about 1 o'clock or so doing something on Florence that we're going to be picking up this weekend. Tomorrow we're with Shelter Care, and then we're doing St. Vincent de Paul. And then we have Travel Lane County, and we have a special car wash on Thursday of talking about Uber. And then Friday, all day, we're going to be in Florence, exploring Florence. So it's a busy week. We're just starting off with the good stuff.
I would like to say that personally, I really, really appreciate the fact that you focus so much on positive things.
Oh, thank you.
That makes a huge difference. For these youth and for everybody,
especially media-wise.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
it's because I spent a lot of years doing some good work and some shit.
Yeah.
And so I now this is like my redemption.
Well, you know what? Sometimes we can't do anything about the mistakes that we've made except learn from them.
Right.
And so I just want to personally thank you for your work.
Well, I'll tell you, they come into your house that day. I've had so many people come on and go, what was that like? And I said, you know what? I was sitting in my car, and just to be super, super honest with you, I'm sitting in my car going, God, this is so hard because she hanged herself right here in this house. And I just sat in my car and I went, okay, what do you do? What do you do? And then I went, here we go. And I walked in the door, and then I saw both of your faces. I just went, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And that was so powerful because it was just so real. And I think that's what people loved about it, is because it was just so real. And so I appreciate you guys trusting me, and now we're friends. This is over.
Yeah. We love the hell out of you.
Yeah, thank you again. So you guys, share this on your page if you know somebody who needs that. And Ron, you might want to just go talk to yourself, because you're really getting off on a limb here, dude. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. I will see you soon. You have to go back. You'll just have to go back, and you guys can go back and make some positive comments, and I'm sure that you can help educate him. I second that. Thanks, Rick, and not because you have a cool name. Okay, yeah. All right, see you guys later. Bye.